Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. How are you guys doing? This is your boy Mongo Slade. Tonight it is February the 16th, 2 days after Valentine's Day, and we got a loaded show. We got a lot to discuss, so I'm going to try not to sidebar too much on today's episode, though it will be interactive as always. I will try not to sidebar too much. We got about 6 topics. All of them are worthy of your time. And I will try to keep the time bars in the first comment, the pinned comment down, but the subjects will be in the description. As usual, I will write a synopsis of the show in the description if I take the time to. Today I did. So, what is tonight's show going to be about? Well, there's about, again, like I said, it's going to be about 5 or 6 subjects. One will be Cody Rhodes and his thoughts on the CM Punk Elite fight back and All Out. 2 will be Dax Harwood saying that EDDIE Kingston is this generation's Dusty Rhodes. 3, Jake the Snake Roberts claiming that nobody will remember 85% of the wrestlers that are wrestling today. 4, Jim Valley of PW Insider, not PW Insider, but Wrestling Observer Radio. He's a Meltzer guy. He was very upset about Patrick Mahomes wearing the WWE Championship and not being paid for it. That's a good one. We're going to catch up. I think 5, the WWE MLW lawsuit. We're going to read portions of it to catch you guys up. As usual, I gave it some breathing room. I wanted some other people to talk about it first before I really dove into it. And then our final subject will be the Elimination Chamber. We're going to do predictions. I'm going to try to do this show in 2 hours flat. I'm going to try it. I want to be in bed by 10:30. Well, let's see if it happens. Let's see if it works. All right, let's see if it works. Once again, hello. How are you guys doing? Again, the topics will be in the description. If it is not in the description, unless somebody died, just try not to sidebar too much from this, even though I know the sidebars are sometimes the funniest parts. All right. If we go long on one subject, I can shorten the other one because all of them, not everything is worthy of spending 10 minutes on. I appreciate everybody who's come in so far. Again, we wait till about 5 minutes to start so I can give everybody individual hellos. Top Dog, what's up? WG Phil, what's up? TN Pyro was good. AJ3, how you doing, brother? We are all in the building getting ready for tomorrow, which will be Good Friday. Everybody's gonna hopefully, your week will end solidly. I've been having a miserable week. I found out that I don't get an income tax return. That should tell you. That should tell me something. I was unhappy about that. I gotta pay H&R Block almost $200 to find out that I got nothing. You broke even. Oh, how did that happen? How does it happen that I break even? Huh? They took just the right amount of money this time. Oh, okay, sure. Except the city owes me $15, which I don't know. I might put it in a mutual fund or something. Who knows? Damn. But that was about it. The Cody Ariel Helwani interview was good. It was good. It was better than I thought it would be. I listened to it. I listened to the entire thing, but I want to talk specifically about the CM Punk piece just because I don't want to go through the whole thing. I don't really want to go through all of it. But it was very interesting because I don't know if Cody's ever discussed it publicly before. So this was very interesting. Of course, he took a very sharp yet very subtle dig at who he thinks the problem is in that situation, but he still managed to get out of there. I saw this as a wrestling soup question because they made a video saying that if WWE gets sold, what will happen to NXT? I don't think anything will happen to NXT. NXT is a television show. It generates money for the WWE. Why would they get rid of it? Now, they may shrink it if it gets sold to somebody who doesn't really see the value of it. But if it's going to be, but you have to consider when UFC was sold, they didn't get rid of their training facilities or anything like that. Tough Enough and nothing like that stopped. It didn't stop. You know, those things continued. So I don't see how it will change NXT, especially since a lot of those people don't get paid that much money, you know. But I don't know. You never can tell. You never know. All right. So, like as per the usual, we got to get started. We're going to talk about Cody and his thoughts on Brawl Out. I wanted to play the audio from his Elio Helwani interview, and then we're kind of going to go into it, get everybody's thoughts on this subject. Let's see what we can do about this. But again, thank you everybody for stopping by. Hopefully you guys are good. So let's get started. Here is Cody Rhodes on Elio Helwani's show talking about CM Punk. I'm going to have to stop it periodically, of course.
I had a great relationship with Matt, Nick, and Kenny. Still do. It definitely was tested by being young executives. It was tested by having different opinions on wrestling. But our different opinions is what made it strong.
All right.
That's what made us work. I want to do Crockett.
See, this is something that a lot of the AEW fan base got frustrated with Cody about. A lot of them got very frustrated with Cody because he's trying to be magnanimous. You know, he's trying to be, our differences is what made us strong. And they were like, oh, Cody, I hate you. You never was down with the Elite. You never were down with them. And Cody's trying to say, look, during the schizophrenic years of Dynamite where, things felt, partially WWE, partially Indies, people were very excited because they got the best of both in some ways. But a lot of people, kind of felt that it was kind of a little weird because it didn't have a singular creative voice. It was pretty obvious that, both sides were pushing and pulling in their own way. But he's saying like that's what made AEW great because it didn't have a singular vision and you had something, I guess, essentially a buffet. It was something for everybody, which is what Triple H has been trying to do in WWE. He would try to get NXT to have a certain thing, and then, of course, the main roster would be something different, and which is what birthed the Codyverse. But a lot of people felt like he was being disingenuous here. And that's always a likelihood with Cody because I don't think Cody's ever 100% honest about anything. I think that he's almost 30 to 40% fake. At any given time, Cody is being phony. But that's what makes me laugh so much about him. Because you could tell sometimes he's trying to pull the rug from up under you, and he can't really do that. Let's continue.
That's what made us work. I want to do Crockett and Old School, and they want to do PWG and West Coast, and damn, I loved it. It wasn't. I liked that. That contention is what made us bond. We're bonded forever because of the things we did. I also had a great relationship with Punk. He was my dinner buddy. They'd order dinner for me at AEW every week as one of my management perks or whatever. I don't think he knew. I always just put it on my tab because I wanted to make sure he was getting something too, salmon or sushi. So we didn't talk a lot, but I had a great relationship. We would still chat and was so excited to have him back. And
he's there's something about this that kind of feels wrong. He said he had a good relationship with Punk, and I can believe that. They worked in WWE together for a short amount of time, not very long. But they worked in WWE for a while. I think Cody was there CM Punk's entire run, wasn't he? Because Punk came in 05. I'm talking about up to the main roster. It was like 05 or 06, and Cody was on the roster already. So I'm pretty sure they knew each other. I'm not sure how many main roster matches they had, but I'm pretty sure they were pretty friendly with one another, and I'm pretty sure their friendship grew as both became, disenchanted with WWE. I can understand that. Maybe that's what they were talking about over salmon. Was how much they hate Triple H.
Like, even if you remember when he came back, everyone was fired up about that. Everybody. So when I watched it, just from my sitting there, I was not. There were some people texting me. I remember somebody texting me, "Man, you're the smartest guy in the room," and I wanted to write back like, "F you, man." Like, I don't feel that way. I feel this thing we built got damaged, and I'm not putting any blame on anybody. Sorry, I was super Switzerland.
No, I get it.
I'm not putting any blame on anybody, but I just hated seeing that, because as the company grows, and I hope it continues to grow, I hope people remember the mission in the first place, why we were there. And if you bring in people who don't know the mission, then things like that can happen.
And he gave it away right there, right? You bring in people who don't know the mission. I mean, who was there that didn't know the mission? Who was there that didn't know the mission? I mean, oh boy. Now, everything is a dog whistle to CM Punk, marks or whatever. So they got really upset with Cody about this. How does he not know? He was the one with the pipe bomb. It's like, well, you remember that promo where CM Punk was told, all the things that you said, I did. Who cut that promo? I always go back to the initial comment where CM Punk said that he got a text message from Cody, and he blasted him saying basically we don't negotiate through text or whatever. And he embarrassed Cody in public. And I remember I'm one of the few people who still talk about that. Like, that was a very public slight. And that was one of the very first cracks in AEW, is that you could tell they were trying to make a move. And then Cody kind of went off on his own. He knew Punk from WWE, figured he's going to call him, talk to him, whatever. Punk and Jericho had already had their falling out. So now we're in this situation where Punk kind of starts in on Cody. And that's before he even comes in. And then they're not on the same roster very long before Cody vacates. He takes off. And TN Pyro that's a great question. How much does Cody really know about this situation? I mean, it's really suspicious. Really suspicious that, during your company's biggest W, you just scored the biggest free agent signing in wrestling at that time. You scored several huge free agent signings at the same time. Punk, Danielson, Adam Cole, Red Dragon, all these guys are coming in at around the same time. And then that's the when you decide to leave? Huh. That's the time you decide to leave. Cody will never, he is far too savvy. He's far too much of Dusty's son to give it away, especially to give it away for free while everybody's still active or whatever. I'm guessing we won't know until these guys are old and gray. These guys will be old before somebody finally starts to spill the beans. Or somebody's going to get cantankerous. It might be like a John Moxley or somebody like that who might get too old to wrestle and get bitter and get tired of hearing about this. And he's probably just going to just blurt out what it was, because he probably knows too. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys who knows what happened in that locker room. There's probably a lot of guys who knows what happened. But it's a split party, because Punk had made friends while he was in AEW. Of course he did. The Elite have their supporters. Cody had his supporters. Everybody had their guys. Jericho's got his guys. Everybody's got their little clique. Nobody wants to be the one that's going to step over the line and say, you know what, this was the guy who was the problem, that guy was the problem. Nobody wanted to deal with this. Because in doing so, you run the risk of, your clique taking hits too. So I think Cody probably knows a lot. I think Cody knows a lot more about this situation. And I think he's about to let on how much he really knows.
I'm not saying he didn't know the mission or anything of that nature, but
Yes,
I was
you
just bummed out. That's how I felt. I was bummed out because you win a title, it's a feather in your cap. You win the Royal Rumble, it's a feather in your cap. Building an alternative wrestling promotion is definitely a feather in the cap. I don't want that to be erased. I don't want that to go away. Plus, there's not as many jobs in wrestling as people think. There's about 1,000 people who work there, structurally, infrastructure, and talent. I'm proud of them, and I want to make sure they're able to feed their families. And that was a situation that was so big and heavy. I don't think it was helpful, right? And I don't know, maybe you can make it helpful. Maybe you can do something with it. But it was just, that's how I felt. No heat on Punk, no heat on Matt, Nick, Kenny, or Tony. I was just bummed out when I saw it. That's not how we envisioned it. If you were at All In, were you at All In? No. Right, the spirit of All In. If you ever lose the spirit, you're lost. Right. And I think the spirit was gone in that moment. Doesn't mean you can't get it back. But it was just a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. You can't get it back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't strike lightning twice. It's not going to happen, so it's very unfortunate. Cody's not wrong, though. You know, I will give Cody that. He's not wrong. If you do surrender the feeling, the good, it was at that time, and I think if you were to reminisce upon it in terms of AEW in 2019, 2020, it was still very, very fresh. And they were doing a lot of different things. They were trying a lot of different things. And they were failing a lot. You know, a lot of the matches were subpar. A lot of the characters' work was subpar. But there were some things they were doing really well, too. You know, they were recruiting better back then than they are now. You know, like there was a time where AEW was an extremely hot promotion and pretty much everybody wanted to join. Now it's a question of, I mean, is anybody going to stay? You know, like there's some guys trying to get out of there. You know, there's a lot of questions about in just 3 or 4 years, it went from, guys who were exceedingly happy to be there to a lot of guys wondering, well, is this really the place for me long term? I mean, let's take a look at it. Cody himself has already left. There's talks that the Elite have not re-signed yet. Jericho and Moxley, they have. There's talk about FTR not re-signing. Guys like Andrade and Miro are kind of like wishy-washy. For a long time, there was a conversation about Malachi Black and whether he wanted to stay or not. You know, there's a lot of talk about in AEW about, whether these guys are happy with the decision that they made. But there was a time there in 2019, 2020. I think 2020, part of that was the pandemic, and it was one of the two companies that was still running. So it was a blessing to have AEW there. But just 2 or 3 years later, it's a question of how many people really want to stick around, And that is a surprise. That's a very quick turnaround. It's not like WWE where there's always this question of how many people are really disgruntled on the roster. That's always been the case. It's been the case since the 80s. There's always going to be a lot of top superstars who are going to be extremely happy. They're all in. Everything is good. But then there's going to be maybe a couple of people who actually broke through who are still kind of embittered. In the 80s, maybe you had Piper and Jake the Snake Roberts and those kinds of guys who this ain't the kind of wrestling they really want to do. It's kind of goofy. It's kind of silly. They want to try to make their part of the show better, but they always don't have that option. Sometimes Vince handicaps them with silly ideas or whatever the case may be, and they jump ship and they go somewhere else. In the 90s, it would be, some other guys. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head, but none of them are coming. Hogan and Savage and all those guys who, they kind of have run their course in WWF, and it was time to go somewhere else. These guys are kind of getting embittered. They kind of got upset with Vince, either the steroid trial or not making enough money. Hall and Nash, those were 2 guys that I was thinking of off the top of my head. There you go. Six, X-Pac was another one. Shawn in the later years. There was in the new generation eras, there was tons of them. MVP, Mr. Kennedy, Carlito, all of these guys. There's always going to be guys who are kind of like right on the cusp, who are upset. I mean, that's the nature of WWE, is there's like a John Cena or Hulk Hogan, and you're never going to go past that guy. A Roman Reigns, But in other promotions, it always seems like the door is more wide open. When there's a TNA or a Ring of Honor or AEW, you always get a feeling that you can break through. Like, this is a company that won't put a lid on me. I can go and be creatively free. I can create my own character, do whatever I want. I'll get pushed, yada, yada, yada. And then you find out, not true. It's not true. You have a limit to everything that you do, everywhere that you go. Or you finally do break through and you don't get over the way that you thought you would have. A guy like Mr. Kennedy, for instance. Guy broke through, didn't take TNA to the next level. Now, you could argue that maybe at that point it was a little too late, but it was the general idea. But now AEW, you got people, some people trying to get out of there, and Tony Khan's coming out talking about, having 5-year contracts on guys. It's like, that's nutty. It's nutty that you would have a 5-year contract on this guy. It's nutty that he would sign a 5-year contract. Like, he had to be crazy. There's no justification for a 5-year contract at this point. I mean, your television isn't even settled for that long. If you were going to have like a 5-year deal, it would make sense for you to do so, but it don't. Yeah, happy times don't last. And that's what AEW was based off of. It was basically like a refugee camp, just like ECW, just like TNA. It was like a bunch of people WWE didn't know how to use or didn't care about, with a bunch of people they've already rejected. They never made it to the main show. They just kind of rejected because they didn't really want them. And then a bunch of people that they found on their own. That's pretty much every wrestling company outside of WWE. Since the territories died, because the territories used to go out and just basically create their own stars. Now, most wrestling companies are WWE washouts, and some older talent who come back to the business, and then they recruit, a couple of people here and there. It was odd. It was odd. But I think Cody was trying to be as fair as possible to CM Punk, but he said it all when he said you bring in people who don't know the mission. The mission statement of AEW, which I'm not sure what it is myself, because the company has come across as being very scatterbrained. And when you think about AEW, the only thing you can think about is what they want to do, which is to be the alternative to WWE. That's the only thing that they've ever said. They've never said what they are. What is the brand of AEW? If you want to talk about, marketing or whatever, what is AEW's brand? They're the wrestling product for the wrestling fans. It's like, okie dokie. I guess so. And this kind of ties into the I'm Him 24/7 thing. Did I read about the rating? Yeah. The rating went down. I'm not surprised. Did you see that episode of Dynamite? I'm not surprised. This kind of ties into King Mike's World's comment. I don't think Tony even knows what the mission is anymore. I think he just got so lost in this challenger brand war that's going on in his head that he forgot what AEW is about. Over the last several months, a lot of people have disappeared from AEW television. People that everybody was very excited for. Where's Keith Lee? Nobody. We weren't told that he was injured. He just vanished, and his angle with Swerve was just dropped. There has been no conversation whatsoever on what's the name of the dude who was in Undisputed Era with Adam Cole, the one who didn't go to Impact? I forget his name already. But there's been no conversation about that guy. At least we know he was injured. And they had a really good roster. And they chose, and they continued to add some really good pieces with Roosh and Bandito and guys like that. But still, they got nothing. They still produce. They got Samoa Joe. They still don't produce Kyle O'Reilly. That was his name. They still don't produce anything. They still don't produce anything. You have to beg the question: what is your company? So many wrestling companies outside of Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was one of the few companies that define themselves beyond being we're not WWE. So many wrestling companies have come into the space, and the only thing they can say is we're not WWE. We're real wrestling for real wrestling fans. We're listening to the fans and all this kind of stuff. We're the fan-friendly wrestling promotion. AEW came out of the chute a little bit with the progressivism. They wanted to be the more progressive wrestling company. Women's were going to get paid better, and they were going to get the same spot on the card, and they were going to treat the women better than WWE treated the women. They were going to pay the talent better. They were going to give a talent health insurance. They had all of these really gnarly ideas that came out at first. And then slowly but surely, people started to chip away at them ideas. The longer it went, people were like, wait, what's up with that health insurance? No conversation about that. When WWE was laying people off during the pandemic, AEW was just kind of like, we're not going to do that. That's not going to be us. And that got them some fans. A lot of the COVID testing in WWE was kind of quirky, and AEW was like, we didn't have one positive test the entire time. It's like, well, then you find out after COVID is near over that they did have 3 or 4 guys who had tested positive. They just kept it very, very quiet. I think Matt Jackson had it twice. Jericho had it. A couple of other people had it at the same time. So they did a good job of really keeping things under wraps. It's like they keep these injuries under wraps. I swear to God, Britt Baker has had a surgery a year since AEW has started. How many times has she broke? I think she broke her nose twice. She wrestles once a week. She doesn't work like indie shows or anything like that. She works once a week, maybe twice. And she's like broken her face like 2 or 3 times. She's been in a wheelchair. She was on crutches. It's ridiculous. Now poor Anna Jay is sitting at home probably with a neck brace on, and it's wild. But the question remains, like, what is AEW? What is their identity outside of being we're not WWE? That's very, very difficult. You should have sat down and come up with an idea by now. Kyle O'Reilly was made out to be a megastar. See, the thing is, they only care about the in-ring work. That's why he was, treated like he was a big deal, because the guy can work. But can the guy cut promos? Is the guy entertaining? It's like, are people going to stop what they're doing to watch Kyle O'Reilly? No. Is Kyle O'Reilly going to be able to spark or inspire somebody in order to get them to care about him? It has yet to be seen. See, Daniel Bryan worked because he couldn't be a superstar, but he could be inspiring. It was an inspirational story. Kofi Mania was an inspirational story. Sami Zayn is an inspirational story. All these stories are a little bit different. But ultimately, there's that sort of underdog tale that inspires people to, overcome the odds and that kind of thing. That's a happily ever after. Like, once that story happens, that's it. That's it. Once you get that happily ever after, people are going to be like, oh wait, the story continues. What more do they have to say? Like, what more is there to do after the happily ever after? But AEW needs to figure out who they are. They need to figure out what they're going to do. WCW at least had an identity. ECW had more than an identity. They had their own little universe. That was the great thing about ECW. They truly defined who they were. Ring of Honor defined who they were. But TNA and AEW have only defined themselves as being not WWE. And that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. And when Cody says, like, you have to remember what the mission is, you're bringing people in who don't know the mission. That means you just brought in this guy, you paid him a ton of money, and it's a big problem, you know. And then he got an executive position from what it sounds like. You know, they never really expounded upon that, but it sounds like Punk got some kind of executive position, which I'm not surprised because again, Punk has kind of weaseled his way into the office pretty much everywhere except WWE. Like he got into the office in Ring of Honor, he was helping to train talent there. He got into the office in OVW, where he was helping to executive produce the shows. Remember, he was helping Paul do all that kind of stuff. And then he came into AEW. He created his own little universe too, and he seemingly was helping in front of the camera and behind the camera in AEW. And they never defined what he was actually doing. It's almost as if Tony Khan was afraid to tell people that he had some kind of executive power in AEW. But I'm telling you, it seems like he did. And my thing is, why would he not? Why would it be okay to tell everybody that Kenny Omega has an executive position, but it's not okay to tell people CM Punk's got one? You know, maybe that's what the argument was about. Maybe those guys didn't want CM Punk coming in and eating from the table that they set. Maybe that was the problem. You know, we don't know, and it seems like we'll never know. But Cody was trying to be as fair as possible, from what it sounds like. But he still dropped some gems on him. And that whole thing, but these guys not remembering what the mission is, that was something. And the fact that he left says it all. And I know he says he left because he wanted to tie up this nice little bow on his dad's career and the promise that he made and all this kind of stuff. I know that's what he says, but something tells me that he kind of saw this coming, and he's entirely too smart. He's entirely too smart. And most of us, if we go back to my old videos and stuff like that, a lot of us saw that somebody from the Elite Cody situation was going to leave. And I always thought it'd be Kenny Omega. I always thought he would be the first one to go. But Cody was a good option, because if you look at the setup, the Bucks and Omega are actually friends. Cody was the guy who came in and helped them out, as far as, he went and hang out with them in Japan and in Ring of Honor. He's basically a tag along. So it made more sense for Cody to be the first one to leave. He's not as bonded as the rest of them. He got the hell out of there. Now there's questions about whether the Elite is going to stay or not. And I'm betting they will, because they have nowhere else to go. I doubt WWE really values them as much as they value themselves and value the positions they have in AEW. But they're also rans. Their segments lose viewers. Nobody really gets all that excited about them anymore. And then now what? It's very strange. I think that somebody is going to have to do an in-depth interview, and it'll probably be an autopsy of AEW. I hate to put it that way, but that's usually when the truth comes out, is when the company is dead. So, there's a lot of things that was going on with TNA, that didn't get found out until after the TNA era of Impact had died out. Then all of a sudden, people started figuring out, oh, Dixie Carter was doing this. Dixie Carter was doing that. This is the mistake she made. This is the comments that she was making to people. All of that stuff started to come out after the fact. There was dribs and drabs of it during the situation, but there was a lot of it after the fact. It's going to take a while. It's going to be like this big explosion in AEW. This is one good thing I take about Tony Khan. He has maintained a lot of these explosions. The brawl out situation was one thing where he just completely was ill prepared for what was going on. But he's been able to muzzle a lot of these situations. And I'm thinking it's through the usage of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. He's been able to trap a lot of people and keep them quiet. but it's not going to last forever. There's going to be some people in AEW who are going to end up snapping and just going hard. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen because it happens in every wrestling promotion. They start out as a tight knit group. We're a family. This is what we're all about. We all agree to that. Then you start bringing in other people who are kind of like, that doesn't work for me, brother. But they're a big enough star and they're important enough to the brand that you just kind of go with it. They got lucky for like a year that everybody who came in was on board. Moxley, Jericho, Matt Hardy, a lot of those dudes were on board. They were like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go do it. These guys who have been in some way screwed over by WWE for years, they're already multimillionaires. They want to be free now. They want to do something different. That's the difference too from what I've noticed, and it usually happens in TNA too. Is the WWE guys get special preferential treatment, but if you coming up from the bottom, you kind of watching these guys zoom past you, and you reward it. Like, how many people? I think Jay Cargill came out and said like, "Oh, WWE wanted to sign me, but that's only after I did the AEW thing." Willie Hobbs was another one who said that. I think Wardlow said it too. A couple of people have said it. Oh, I was loyal to AEW. Now they sitting on the bench. Except Jay. Now most of them are sitting on the bench, and they're watching, Top Flight keep getting matches, and Daniel Garcia gets shot up the card, and Wheeler Yuta gets shot up the card, and they're just kind of sitting there like, what's this? What's this now? It's easy to satiate a Bryan Danielson. He's made his money already. Jericho's made his money already. This is a fun run for them. They say they're doing this for the business or whatever, but they really just kind of having fun. They just like, okay, we made the money. Now we want to have just spend the rest of our careers doing what we want to do and not have to worry about the pressure of being in WWE. There's a lot of guys who need to get out of AEW. They're not going to leave though. Tony Khan's not going to let them out. There's a lot of guys who probably should be considering getting out of AEW. And I'm not saying they should go to WWE. I'm saying they probably should consider getting out of AEW. Willie Hobbs is number one on that list. He needs to get out of AEW. He's been there for 3 years, maybe 4. And he's not getting anything out of this experience. He's wrestling important guys, but he's not getting anything out of working in AEW. At least if you go through NXT or something like that, they'll teach you about character work and cutting promos and all that kind of stuff. Your work will get a little bit tighter, or whatever the case may be. You will at least learn something. And AEW, it looks like you don't learn that much of anything, or it's basically you got to learn on your own time, and some guys are not good at that. Some of them, they need a coach. They need to be moved forward. All right. Now, Cody and his conversation about Brawl Out was interesting stuff. I think he knows more than he's letting on. I definitely believe he knows more than he's letting on. But that old vampire, he's not gonna tell us anything. He's not gonna tell us a damn thing. We're not gonna know, but I'm pretty sure he's blaming Punk for the whole situation because it just feels like that would be something that he would do. And it seemed like a pretty interesting time for him to take a dig at CM Punk, who took a dig at him. All right, so let's discuss the MLW-WWE lawsuit. So on the 13th of February 2023, MLW's lawsuit was dismissed. Technically, it was dismissed. MLW has 21 days to amend their complaint. Now, a lot of people did not explain to you why it was dismissed. And that's really what we're going to do here. We're going to try to explain why MLW lost this case. Not just because WWE got money and MLW doesn't. It's that MLW failed to properly define and give examples of what WWE actually did and in what way MLW was harmed. So here's some of it. I'm going to look for, it says, okay, so it says, this is from part 3. I forget, this is page 3. It says the only claim over which the court has original subject matter jurisdiction is the alleged section of Section 2 of the Sherman Act. The court therefore addresses MLW's antitrust claim before the state law claims. The Sherman antitrust claim. WWE argues that MLW's Sherman Act claim should be dismissed because MLW does not plausibly allege 1, a relevant market, 2, monopoly power, or 3, antitrust injury. So those are WWE's claims. That 1, MLW has not defined a relevant market, 2, has not proven their monopoly power, or 3, has not proven an antitrust injury. So the court is going to go through these 3 points, and we're going to read all 3 of these points, okay? 1, relevant market. Antitrust law requires an allegation of both a product market and a geographic market. The plaintiff must allege both that a relevant market exists and that the defendant has power within that market. That is the definition of a relevant market argument, okay? So it says, although the definition of a relevant market for antitrust purposes is typically a factual inquiry, an antitrust claim must be dismissed under Rule 12 if the plaintiff's relevant market definition is, quote, facially unsustainable. It says the principle most fundamental to product market definition is cross-elasticity of demand for certain products or services, a measure of interchangeability or substitutability of related products. That is, a relevant market must, quote, encompass the product at issue as well as all economic substitutes for that product. Okay? That means that a relevant market, WWE must encompass the product and all economic substitutes of that product. And of course, this isn't really what AEW contends, MLW contends. I want to skip to the next paragraph. It says, MLW alleges that the relevant antitrust market is, quote, the national market for the sale of broadcasting rights for professional wrestling programs to networks, cable, and streaming services. WWE does not dispute the geographic market of the United States. However, WWE argues that MLW has not plausibly alleged facts supporting its proposed product market, particularly due to the lack of allegations about the structure of television and streaming industries, the production of professional wrestling programming, and the unavailability of reasonable interchangeable alternatives to professional wrestling content. In response, MLW asserts that it is not required to include express allegations regarding the cross-elasticity of demand or absence of reasonably interchangeable products. The products with potentially interchangeable substitutes can nonetheless constitute a relevant antitrust submarket, and that WWE's arguments, quote, at most raise factual issues that cannot be decided on a motion to dismiss. All right, so this is, I know it's pretty confusing. They're arguing about what is the relevant market. Now, there's 2 parts to the market. It has to be the product, but it also has to be a geographic location. So MLW is saying the geographic location is the United States. The WWE does not deny that part. The argument now is, does WWE have a monopoly over streaming, cable, and broadcast television? Which MLW has to prove. And they have not proved that. Mainly because it's not true. And it's clearly not true because other wrestling companies have gotten television deals since MLW And it really just doesn't make so much sense for them to argue this, but it's bizarre. It says MLW's argument that it does not allege cross-elasticity of demand is unavailing. It is true that there is no mandate that a plaintiff include in her complaint the exact phrases cross-elasticity of demand or reasonably interchangeable alternatives. In fact, using these phrases is neither necessary nor sufficient to survive a motion to dismiss. Then it says there is no magic phrase required by courts. However, relieve a plaintiff of her duty to plausibly allege the contours of a product market, which necessarily requires allegations that speak to the question of substitute products. The court finds that MLW has not included sufficient facts to plausibly allege a relevant antitrust market. Regarding the proposed market, the complaint alleges only that there are 4 competitors in the, quote, United States professional wrestling market, that the, quote, business of promoting professional wrestling as sports entertainment is a fundamentally media industry with revenues and business valuations driven largely by fees obtained from broadcasting rights deals, and that corporations such as NBC, Universal, and Fox Sports, quote, purchase broadcasting rights in the proposed market for the various distribution channels such as broadcast networks, cable and satellite services, streaming services, and film production companies. Though these facts, as pled, are not sufficient to provide an understanding of the characteristics of the relevant market, including the existence or lack of substitutes. For example, there are no allegations addressing why other, quote, sports entertainment or, quote, media content for which broadcasting rights might be sold to distribution channels are not appropriate substitutes. MLW is correct that a single sport may constitute a relevant market. Then they actually quote the UFC here. It says, but there are no facts alleged in the complaint to support that legal conclusion. Additionally, the complaint uses multiple formulations to describe the proposed market, which further complicates the question of the market's boundaries and the reasonably interchangeable products contained therein. So, of course, your thing has to have boundaries to it. Where does it end? What is professional wrestling? Where does it end? How does MLW define what they operate in, and how are they supposedly been damaged? Let's try to skip a little bit more. It says, for the reasons above, the court finds that MLW's allegations are insufficient to plausibly allege a relevant product market. Accordingly, the court grants WWE's motion to dismiss MLW's Sherman antitrust claim. Now, the second part is the monopoly power and antitrust injury. So, as we've seen, the argument that WWE is a monopoly has already been destroyed. That's already gone. And so, the MLW losses continue. It says, although the court dismisses the Sherman Act claim based on the insufficiency of the relevant market allegations, it notes briefly that MLW's allegations regarding monopoly power and antitrust injury as currently pled are unlikely to withstand a motion to dismiss for many of the reasons outlined in WWE's motion. With respect to monopoly power, the court finds particularly concerning the bare allegation that WWE, quote, holds approximately 85% of the market because, quote, plaintiff does not allege what it is measuring. Essentially, you say WWE has 85% of the market. Okay, what market are we talking about? Right? They just saying stuff. It's just an allegation. It says in the paragraphs immediately prior to the market share allegation, MLW alleges facts regarding WWE's annual revenue, the, quote, combined average annual value of WWE's U.S. TV rights for programs, U.S. television viewership numbers for WWE's programs, and average television viewership ratings. Although the court might, in some circumstances, quote, reasonably infer how plaintiff arrived at these calculations by proportional of total revenue, plaintiff's allegations make it even less clear what it is measuring. And the court is troubled by MLW's argument that it alleged direct evidence of monopoly power, including that, quote, WWE has also increased prices. From the court's review of the complaint, including the cited paragraphs, MLW alleges only that WWE has, quote, kept prices high, and, quote, has the ability to raise prices, and, quote, prevented access to content at lower prices, and, quote, eliminated price competition. If MLW wishes to argue that WWE has, quote, increased prices, it should also so allege. Okay, so they're saying that WWE has control over the market, has been manipulating prices for television ratings, et cetera, et cetera. The court is looking at how did you come to that conclusion, all right? Because MLW is basically saying we could provide a product cheaper, but WWE will not allow us to provide a cheaper product, which would be, inappropriate use of power within the market if you can prevent people from undercutting you. Because I remember on this channel, I've talked about it time and time again, WWE is getting very expensive. If it costs you $1 billion to lease out SmackDown, somebody else should be able to swoop in underneath you and fill that void. The difference being, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to come up in here, is that WWE's brand is what makes it more expensive. Some people will only deal with wrestling if it's WWE. So there's no argument. You cannot make the argument that Fox will bring in MLW without some kind of written statement from Fox that says we're interested in MLW. Because you don't know that. You don't know who's interested in your product. Some people are only in the wrestling business because WWE is in the wrestling business. And if they got out of it, they would be out of it. This happened time and time again, right? Sometimes a company you very rarely see people replace WWE with other wrestling. Most of the time it's the other way around, right? Other wrestling is replaced by WWE. Like when ECW was on Spike, that was kind of a setup for WWE to come on Spike. But Spike didn't try to replace WWE when it was gone. MTV tried to with Wrestling Society X, but I think that was several years later. Actually, it might not have been several years. It might have been like a year or two later. But it wasn't on the same night, and it wasn't the same kind of thing. But you very rarely see that. People want the brand, not necessarily what the product is. But MLW doesn't really see it that way. Let's continue. It says, MLW's allegations regarding antitrust injury appear similarly lacking. As the harms it is alleged, the loss of contract revenues due to WWE's interference, are specific to MLW rather than to competition at large. MLW includes a single allegation that consumers would have increased access to higher quality professional wrestling entertainment content at lower prices but for WWE's conduct. But it appends no additional facts to support this conclusion. Oh, it has no facts to support this conclusion. Hey, Jesus. Now in the footnotes, it says it is not clear to the court why WWE's market power metrics were only compared to AEW's, as opposed to overall numbers for the proposed market. Similarly, the significance of the comparison of the metrics for 2 or 3 WWE programs to one AEW program is not apparent to the court. The latter metrics appear to compare apples to oranges, and both sets of metrics appear only to indicate the relative success of WWE and AEW rather than WWE's position in the overall proposed market. This is nuts. This is going bad. The milk's going bad for real. Court Bauer. All right. So they said the state law claims because the court dismisses the Sherman Act claim, it lacks subject matter jurisdiction over MLW's remaining claims under California law for intentional interference with contractual relations, intentional interference with prospective economic relations, and violation of the UCL. The MLW state law claims are therefore dismissed. Leave to amend. The court finds that additional allegations may cure these deficiencies outlined above in WWE's motion. Accordingly, the court grants MLW leave to amend. Any amendment must be filed within 21 days of the issuance of this order. It says, because the court has here resolves WWE's motion to dismiss, it denies as moot WWE's motion for protective order, staying discovery during the pendency of the motion to dismiss. So WWE filed a motion to prevent discovery because it was going to be incredibly expensive in order for them to dig through all of these contracts, and it would allow them to, it would force public a lot of their business dealings and stuff like that would be exposed to discovery. Other people would get to see it. So they wanted to try to protect that, stop a fishing expedition, essentially. But since the motion has been dismissed, the whole case has been dismissed, they don't need to go through all this. So that's why it's been denied. It says, conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, WWE's motion to dismiss is granted with leave to amend. And that's pretty much it. 21 days. So what? 21 days from the 13th is what? March the 15th or something like that. Something like that, like mid-March. They got until mid-March to file an amendment that cures all the problems that the court has found in their lawsuit. But this has done irreparable damage to like WrestleNomics and stuff like that. They have been hurt by this. You see Brandon Thurston, man, he really wants you to take this 21 days to amend. He wants you to really take that in. They got 21 days, man. They can still turn it around. Like, he's not saying it like that. I'm exaggerating, of course. But you know he doesn't like WWE. So when he sees that, you know, you can't prove that they have monopoly power, you can't prove this. People have been looking at themselves left and right like, we've been saying WWE's a monopoly for 20 years. And here comes somebody to sue, and we thinking, God dang it, they're going to be able to knock this one out of the park. And then, whoop, they strike out. And now you're sitting there with, you know, looking at your buddies, because you've been sitting around on a podcast for, I don't know, 15 years, talking about how terrible this is and how terrible WWE is and how terrible monopoly power is. And you're sitting there, and when it was taken to the courts, once again, you get dunked on. And now you kind of have to come up with some reason why it happened. Now, interestingly enough, I think that maybe the day or so before this, you know, Tony Khan was coming out talking about WWE's tortious interference of contracts and all this kind of stuff. So this led to Tony Khan should join MLW in their lawsuit. He should provide them with some information. But some of the smarter journalists, and I loved watching this. This was beautiful. Some of the people who were kind of like, this MLW thing was dead from the beginning, they said to themselves, if tortious interference is what WWE is doing to AEW, why wouldn't they be suing? If Tony Khan had proof, which he says he doesn't, by the way. Because remember when we sat down and we did, if you don't remember, go watch the Tony Khan videos where he was talking about the war, and he kept saying, the only thing I know is what people tell me. Why didn't he sue? He didn't sue because he doesn't know. You know, like, these wrestling fans have been believing stuff that these journalists have been saying for decades. WWE is calling Madison Square Garden and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, they could get sued for that. Why aren't they getting sued? Why is it that MLW is the first ones to try it and this shit got shot down? Why didn't Ring of Honor and New Japan sue if, you know, Triple H called Madison Square Garden to stop that? It's like the show happened anyway. You know, like the show happened. And then you're like, that's preventing people from growing. It's like, shrug. You can have a wrestling show from the moon. People don't care. You can run the same buildings as WWE. They would prefer if you didn't, because of course they get paid more if they can, you know, be the only people who can turn a profit in that building. But you just want to hold the building just because you want to have the building. You just want to be like, we're in Madison Square Garden, which is what, you know, that useless sack of trash, Matt Taven. I main evented Madison Square Garden in front of a. Nobody remembers that show. Very few people actually saw it. Nobody bought it. So yeah, you were the main event in Madison Square Garden. Yippee for you, I guess. But that should beg the question. People have been, claiming WWE has done this horrible thing to them. They're not suing. Why wouldn't Tony Khan jump in and help Court Bauer with this if it was true? I give Court his credit. At least he was willing to go to the fight. At least he was willing to fight it. At least he was willing to fight it. Everybody else makes these allegations and then runs and hides, But Court, well, he claims his attorneys and all these people, they're going to be working on it and they're going to take care of it and they're not done yet and all this kind of stuff. It's like, bro, most people with brain cells saw this thing was over from the beginning, bro. They just sell your back library to the WWE and, they were fishing for a settlement. Everybody knows that. MLW is fishing for a small settlement because if you get $1 million, or I think Don Tony talked about this, if you get $1 million from WWE and you operate on a shoestring budget, that'll keep you running for a long time. If you can get a settlement for $2 million or something like that, you'll be running for quite a while. If you can get like a $500,000 from WWE, you get bragging rights that you got a settlement, and you will have money to run shows from this point forward, for at least several months. But it didn't happen. It didn't work. And it's very strange, very, very strange that MLW was claiming they couldn't get a TV deal because of WWE. But during this lawsuit, the only TV deal they was able to get is with Reels at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday to air shows that they taped 5 months ago. It's EJ and Duka was on AEW Dark before his match appeared on on MLW Reels. So I guess what? I knew who won already. Not because the match was taped in October, but because one of the guys in the match was on fucking Dark. Court, just sell your library, bro. This lawsuit was useless, man. Just sell the library, bro. Call it a day. Just say, man, we just want to sell this library up to this point. Give us $2-3 million for it. It is a small promotion. It'll get us running for a little while, and call it a day, man. Call it. If you don't want to sell it to Vince, sell it to Tony. Okay, sell it to Tony. Sell it to somebody. But stop running these silly gimmicks like you're running a real wrestling promotion here. I like MLW, man. I don't dislike what they do, but my God, this is one of the dumbest schemes ever hatched. And it's an absolute waste of money. And if he ends up, running out of cash and screwing over the boys, that's going to be some real BS, man, because those guys don't deserve it. Hammerstone and Richard Holiday, these guys, they work really hard. And you're going to waste money that they made on a frivolous lawsuit. Bro, that's dumbbot material right there. You're as dumb as they get. You had like they were on Vice too, WWE has not stopped them from getting. What has stopped them from getting business is people not wanting to be in the wrestling business. That's what stopped them from being in nobody wants to be in the wrestling business. Very few places are interested in hosting wrestling shows. They may be interested in buying their product because everybody needs content. But I mean, in this lawsuit, it had a lot of the same garbage you see in a lot of dirt sheets anyway. Stephanie McMahon called Tubi and told them Vince was going to be very, very mad at you. How many times have people have said that? Some McMahon called somebody on the phone. We don't know who they called, what the name of that person was, but we know for sure that this person, this McMahon X, called person at Tubi, called person at Madison Square Garden, called person here or there, and said Vince is going to be very, very angry with you, as if that person cares. If you run in with Tubi over here, WWE isn't coming knocking on your door. Whatever you care if they're going to be mad. Oh, because of Fox. It's like Fox can compartmentalize this. That's streaming. That's different. They don't care. WWE has the broadcast deal and a cable deal and a streaming deal. Why wouldn't Fox want to have their own broadcasting deal, their own cable deals, their own deals like this? Why wouldn't they want to have that? Now they can sign that away, which is what probably WWE asked them to do. Make them the sole provider of professional wrestling for the Fox family of channels or whatever the hell. But that's still just Fox. There are other companies that are not owned by Fox that you can go to that are not owned by Fox or NBC. And, Disney, Viacom, Apple, Amazon. WWE doesn't have any deals with most of these companies in the United States. Let's put it like that. They may have them outside of the United States, but not in the United States. Why can't you go to these other companies? It's because they don't want you. They don't want nothing to do with you. Have you watched MLW? Have you watched that show? I like MLW, yes, I do. But sometimes they go too far. Sometimes they go too far with the cursing. Sometimes they go too far with the blood. Sometimes they go too far. All right? And if you don't want to change your product, other people might not want to deal with that stuff. And AEW wouldn't be on the air if Tony Khan didn't know a guy. And that's just a fact. Tony Khan knew a guy that got AEW on the air. But I'm not surprised at all MLW's case got thrown out. It's been nothing but horse pucky from the beginning. It's garbage. It's embarrassing, man. But a lot of this is the dirt sheet's fault, because these guys have run around for years making people think that WWE is this big bad monopoly and is crushing everybody and killing everything. And so people decided to act on it. And look what happens. You act on it and you get shut down. It's unfortunate. It's a waste of money. Just sell the catalog, guy. Just sell it. Call it a day, man. Pack it in. Just hopefully they let you keep running it. All right. So let's talk about Jim Valley. So Jim Valley works for Dave Meltzer. And he went on a Twitter, I guess you could say, tirade about the Kansas City Chiefs and this ceremonial WWE championship. I'm going to read a series of tweets from Jim Valley. He says, quote, "I hope that Mahomes got paid for wearing that WWE title everywhere. If not, WWE should give him stock." Somebody says, "It's a gift, man. Relax." Jim Valley said, "It's advertising. He should get paid." Lance Storm jumped in because he's a moron. Says, "I will never understand this. You win the greatest trophy in your sport and then parade around in a trophy from another sport that you never won." So Edge responds and says, "I think it's called having fun, Lance." Shout out to the homie Meltzer says what, because he brought this to my attention, and therefore I looked into it a little bit more. So somebody said that Jim Valley must be miserable for making this a big deal, to which he says, "Huh? What is so, quote, miserable?" Acknowledging that athletes and celebrities get paid for wearing brands in public. Shocking. Groundbreaking. Then he says someone should be getting paid if they are giving a company part of their huge Super Bowl spotlight. Then he continues, kids around the country will dress like Mahomes. Do you really think that his agent doesn't know that? That's worth money. Athletes and stars get paid to wear things. Do you think a player says, I'm going to Disney World by accident and for free? Think about that before calling people dumb. All right. Now, this is a strange hill to die on. A very strange hill to die on. But he's not wrong. Okay. Baby boy, he ain't wrong. All right. It is free marketing for WWE, but it's the boys who want to do the marketing. You know, we don't know what kind of deal WWE has with the NFL either. By the way, Jim Valley, they might have some kind of deal with the NFL where this kind of thing is okay, or people might not care. But why are you so worried about whether he's getting paid or not? Yes, we know that players get paid for advertising, you know. That's all true. But they also wear stuff because they like it. How about that? If Patrick Mahomes pops up in a Sean John shirt, you know, tomorrow, am I to assume he's being paid to wear that shirt? He probably just likes the shirt. So when it comes to the WWE Championship, you know, he's been wearing it everywhere. There's pictures of him drinking out of a champagne bottle and all that kind of stuff. He apparently just likes having it. It's a cool thing for him to have. It reminds him that he won the Super Bowl. It was, you know, pretty sweet. Why can't he just like it? You know, why does it? Hey, if you want WWE to just promote and just say, hey, we're going to give money to whoever wins, that's weird, you know. But you can promote things for free if you want to. That's, you know, I get what Jim Valley is saying, and I'm not saying that he's wrong or that he's evil or that he was a bad guy. But what I'm saying is, it's a weird situation. It's a weird hill to die on. And here's why. These guys claim they want wrestling to be mainstream. They claim they want wrestling to be popular. They claim they want to have more wrestling fans. But then when they see something like this, they want to find a reason to downgrade it, to attack it, to say it shouldn't be happening, to put some kind of barrier upon it. Let's say next year, because of this guy, WWE, they get blurred. You know, they give away these free championships or whatever. And then the NFL says, we're not going to let WWE backstage the Super Bowl. So what we're going to do is we're going to blur out the WWE championships. For starters, everybody's still going to know they got them because there's going to be pictures on Instagram and everything. So they're still going to know they got them. But, you know, WWE's going to have to pay in order to do it. Okay. So you cut off an important form of WWE's marketing. How does that benefit the wrestling business? You know, these guys, these football players, these UFC fighters, these guys are at some point in their lives, they were wrestling fans. Some of them still are. They may not watch it as religiously as guys like us, but they still may look at it. Again, it's a very cool thing for them to have. You know, it's very cool. And the wrestling belts, when they win championships, has become a big thing. You know, it's become a thing. I think WWE kind of got salty when they had the big gold belt one year because they didn't have the logo on it. But I'm telling you, there were so many people who were salty when they saw the WWE logo splattered all over the Super Bowl. They were so pissed. And there was wrestling fans who were pissed. How do they get those things so fast? Why is everybody so excited about having one? Send some AEW belts, all kinds of stuff. There's just so much stuff. It's this way every year. You know, it's the same thing every year. They've been doing this for years. It's been at least 6 or 7 years they've been doing this. You know, it's got to be like 6 or 7 years they've been giving away belts. I think they give them away at the NBA finals. They give them away for the NFL finals. I'm not sure about the NHL finals. I'm not sure. But they've been trying to. It's brilliant marketing because a lot of these guys are fans, you know, and you would think people would consider it to be a cool thing for wrestling because it is somebody treating wrestling things as if it matters. It has real value. You really earn this. You know, there's something that they're really proud of. When I see like the Pistons, like there was a picture where the Detroit Pistons had like the big gold belts on when they won the championship back in 2004. There's like Ben Wallace with the big gold belt and everything. It was cool. As a wrestling fan, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. You know? But these guys, apparently, as long as it's WWE, they don't want it. You know? It's embarrassing. It runs counter to everything that they tell you about how they like wrestling and how they want everybody else to like wrestling or whatever the case may be. It was dumb. It was dumb. They were talking about this weeks ago when it looked like Jacksonville was going to win. And everybody was like, oh, what are they going to do when the Jacksonville Jaguars win the Super Bowl? They're going to send them WWE Championship belts? I was thinking to myself, they probably will. The marketing department probably going to do it, just offer it. Like, go do it. And Tony Khan would probably take one and throw it in the garbage and replace it with an AEW belt or something like that. But you're never going to get that chance because Jacksonville lost. But it was an interesting piece of business, and it's good marketing for WWE. Yes, in circumstances where you're going to hire Patrick Mahomes to do a commercial for your product, you're going to have to pay him a grip. But if he wants to just wear the thing, he can just wear it. It doesn't cost him anything. You know, it's why wouldn't he want to wear it? That's my question. The only reason he wouldn't wear it is if he's not interested in wrestling. But everybody's noticed how in love he is with this thing. You know, there's tweets about how he doesn't take it off, and you know he's been seen wearing it all over the place, and that kind of struck me because I wasn't paying attention. I didn't watch the final quarters of the game. I was up here doing this live stream, but when people were saying like 2-3 days later he was still wearing it, like he apparently took it off, showered, washed his ass, went to sleep, and put it back on. Like that's the thing that kind of blows my mind. It's one thing if you put it on and you never took it off. It's one thing if you took it off, did everyday life stuff, and then when the cameras are rolling, you put it back on. You know, like that's amazing to me. I think he should get free tickets to WrestleMania, free front row tickets. They already gave him a free belt, but since he's a celebrity, bring him to WrestleMania, let him sit for free in the front row. Had it built up in the air with the Chiefs logo all over it. Maybe sell one that's with the Chiefs colors on it. Take it to the next level. Really piss these guys off. If they mad about this, double down. Double down. Why not? I don't get it. It runs counter to their idea that it was good for the business. This is great for the business. It's great for the brand. You know? But the ridiculous I see people laughing about the AEW belts. Look, I'm telling you, man, it was an idea I saw floated by a lot of people. They can't do it with the AEW belts because the Jacksonville Jaguars are owned by the guy who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars owns a wrestling company. So he's going to steal his opponents his own championship belts? Here, you beat us. We're going to send you these championship belts. I don't know about that. It's goofy. It's embarrassing. You know? And these guys want to see the business grow. You know, you got to be kidding me. You don't really want to see the business grow. The Chiefs got some promo off this. They probably got some money on the back end, some kind of closet deal. I wouldn't be surprised at all if WWE didn't make some kind of closet deal with the NFL to do this kind of stuff. They had these things ready. You know, those things it's probably 2 sets of belts with the interchangeable name plates on them and everything. They probably just had the, unlike the T-shirts, which the T-shirts are already made. They probably had the interchangeable name plates where once the Chiefs won, they screwed them off and put the Chiefs logo on it and here, give them away. You know, it's cool. For a lot of people, it's a melding of two things that they really like. It's great promotion, great marketing of WWE. Jim Valley is upset that the guy want to do it for free. That's fine. But I'm looking at it as it's good for wrestling, man. WWE getting more fans, younger fans, crossover fans. That's a good thing. Triple down, man. Send them Intercontinental Championships when they win the conference titles. Congratulations, you're the NFC champion. Here's some United States Championship belts. here's some tag team titles for winning your division. They have a closet full of stuff from WWE. If it was for me, I'd send them stuff all year round. I'd be sending them T-shirts. Like, bro, don't you already understand they play wrestlers' theme songs on like the NBA and stuff? Like, they play like randomly Seth Rollins' theme song in the NBA game or something like that. They're well integrated into this thing. I've heard it. Like, you're talking about the wrong thing here, bro. It's weird. He said Team Empire said the NFL is scripted, only one belt was made. Well, you can take the nameplates off, though. I mean, you can take the side plates off, though. So you can just switch the side plates if you need to. All right. Let's. I feel bad for how miserable these wrestling journalists are. I really do. They some just absolutely miserable types. He's a piece of garbage. Now, speaking of miserable, they're about to make me miserable because this really offended me. It upset me. I'm not sure what to do, but Dax Harwood made the comment that Eddie Kingston is this generation's version of Dusty Rhodes. And I am perturbed, to say the least. Here's what FTR Bald had to say. I think Eddie is our version of Dusty Rhodes, the common man who can talk better than anybody else in the business and make people feel a certain way. Doesn't matter what situations he's put in, he still makes the people feel a certain way about what he's doing. That is a very rare commodity, quality in your arsenal. He makes people care because what he says, he believes. When he fights, he believes that too. I can't say enough good things about Eddie. I think he's a great human being. Someone who texts me on the regular just to ask how my wife and daughter are doing. Every time I see him, we hug. Tell each other we love each other. He asks about my family all the time. I ask about his family. He almost got in a fight before, which is very funny. We apologized the very next day, and it's because we're just two proud guys. Cooler heads prevailed, and we'll talk about it one day. Maybe I'll have him on the show and he and I can talk about it. It's something that we can laugh about now. This guy says that Eddie Kingston is this generation's Dusty Rhodes. Whatever residue he's got in that mustache, he needs to shave that thing. For starters, maybe he shouldn't shave that thing. I would hate to see what he looks like without a mustache. But if he thinks that I tried to give him some, I tried to cut him, I tried to throw him some bail. I really did. I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying to myself, okay, in what way could this possibly be true? All right. Now you want to say like, oh, he's the common man and all this kind of stuff. Okay, but there's a lot of those guys now. You know, is Eddie Kingston shucking and jiving and, you know, cooking and smoking? And I mean, you want to know what hard times is? Hard times is when you got bipolar disorder because you're Puerto Rican and Irish. That's when you got hard times, man. It's like, I think it's been longer than that. I think he probably been booked on Rampage, but he ain't been on Dynamite. And I think he ain't been on Dynamite this year. I don't think he's been on Dynamite this year. Eddie Kingston is in bad shape. He's in bad shape. I feel that FTR Ball is just dumb. Just a dumb man. This is a dumb podcast. You know, this podcast is perpetually stupid. You know, it is a plethora of foolish takes from this moronic man. FTR Bald is one of the most silliest guys ever, man, and not silly in a Jim Carrey kind of way where it's kind of entertaining. It's silly where it's in, I don't get this guy. Well, he's clearly very soft, but it's weird. It's a weird thing. Eddie Kingston, of course, he's a time bomb. Did you read that Players article that he had? I read that in his voice. Like, I had his voice in my head as I read that. And I'm thinking, like, man, this is damn near a suicide note. My mom's hated me. She gave me Chinese food and let me watch Japanese pro wrestling. I'm like, what? I was almost getting into a fight because I wasn't Puerto Rican enough for the Puerto Ricans, wasn't Irish enough for the Irish. Like, you must, like, you gotta look at it. I'm not even gonna say that because I'd have just getting into a fight with everybody. Why? Eddie Kingston, look. Eddie, you believe in Eddie Kingston. I'm looking at Eddie Kingston, and I like Eddie Kingston. I really do. I make fun of him a lot because he looks greasy. He reminds me a lot of the Brooklyn Brawler. He's just like an average Joe who goes out there, very workmanlike, but he can verbally express himself a lot better than most people. You know, verbally, he expresses himself a lot better than most people. He's very real. You tend to believe the things that he says. The problem is he says things that are off kilter. You know, his filter is zero. Like I say, he's got that early 1990s, late 1980s New York attitude, which is not the New York of today. You know, that brash, abrasive, F you, man, version of New York you used to see on TV all the time. That's what he's got going on in his head. And it's coming through on TV, and that's actually pretty good. It's different for the wrestling business where everybody is fake. Compare, Eddie Kingston when he's talking about how he doesn't like Sammy Guevara, and he's just coming out with it. Just no trying to snake you, no underhanded stuff. Then compare that to Cody, who is prim and proper. He looks like Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he's no heat on anybody, but you don't know the mission, and some people do. And he's like Obama, it's like he's trying to be above it all, but he's incredibly fake. If you would have put Eddie Kingston in Cody's situation, he'd have called somebody out and would have just been, you know what, man? I don't even want to hear that, man. This guy's shits, bro. He ain't about it, bro. And he's like, okay. And I'm pretty sure 5 or 10 years, Eddie Kingston's going to be older, fatter, not caring anymore, already out of the business for the most part, maybe doing some backstage work somewhere in Impact or something like that. And he's going to sit down and do a podcast and tell the whole damn thing. Because he ain't going to know how to BS everybody. He's just going to go out there. He's going to be sitting back there drinking or something like that. And he'll be like, yeah, man, Mox and I was playing cards in the corner. And then I heard, do. And I turn around, man, and I see Mike Jackson go flying through the window. I'm like, man, what's over all that shit over there, man? and yada yada yada. It's going to be some real stuff. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Kingston is going to be the one because he don't know how to be nothing but himself. He's going to spoil the beans. Either or Jericho might, because Jericho like to gossip. So it's going to be one of the two of them. You know, I'm telling you. Eddie Kingston listened to the Locks and DMX. Tony Khan don't know how to handle a person like that. Right. You hear somebody, you hearing Swiss beats in the parking lot. You're like, what's going on over here? You know, that's a different vibe, boy. Somebody, don't guys got no love for me. Don't go guys got no love for me. You're like, what? Huh? Who is that? Like, that's just Eddie being Eddie. You know, it's scary. I'm surprised Tony Khan ain't scared of that guy. I'm pretty sure Tony Khan is probably scared of him. I think he's probably frightened of Eddie Kingston. You know, he's probably frightened of Eddie Kingston. My God, he probably sends other people to talk to him. That's probably why he hired Christopher Daniels. Somebody got to talk to guys like Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley, because those guys probably scare Tony Khan. You know, Jon Moxley just looks like a guy who's been in prison. You know, Eddie Kingston looks like a guy who cleaned the prisons. So he's probably a dangerous guy. He's probably the most frightening guy in business. He wants to beat everybody up. I'm not going to take this fucking shit. Oh, man. These guys crazy, man. Just because he's fat doesn't mean he's Dusty Rhodes. Just because he's fat doesn't mean he's Dusty Rhodes. You know, I don't understand why, because he's a fat guy, he has to be Dusty Rhodes or something like that. Like, he could be like this generation's one-man gang. Why not? What's wrong with being one-man gang? I like Eddie Kingston though, man. I like to mess with him. I like to talk about him. I like to do his. Oh, you know, but it's interesting. Otis is the modern day Dusty. Oh man, nah, man. Dusty was cool, man. You know, it's if anything, you're arguing he's this generation Scott Steiner. Steiner was nuts. It was, I guess, in a way. I wouldn't say that, because Steiner was nuts, but I don't think he was as self-destructive as Eddie Kingston is. Like, Eddie Kingston don't know when to turn it off. He don't know when to stop. You know, I don't think he knows when to stop. I think Scott Steiner was smart enough to know when to turn it off and when to turn it back on. Eddie Kingston just kind of goes, and he doesn't really care. It's a weird thing, and I like the authenticity of Eddie Kingston. I really do. I think that he's one of the few guys in wrestling that you can actually believe. But damn, to say he's Dusty is that's a high watermark right there, man. You think very highly of this guy. I'm saying you think very highly of him, maybe too highly. But to say he's this generation of Dusty Rhodes, I'm trying to figure out why this is. Of course, Eddie Kingston looks like a mechanic. Eddie, he's not even Puerto Rican. He's half Puerto Rican. Eddie, the Mexican dream, the mixed dream. You know, he's the mixed man. He's mixed. You know, I'm telling you that Players article showed me where the source of his bipolar disorder comes from. That dude is out of his mind, man. He's funny as hell though. I don't know. If WWE had Eddie Kingston, he would be there a grand total of, I think, probably 5 or 6 months before somebody probably either knocks him the fuck out or fires him. One of the two. Um, one of the two. Either he's gonna fight everybody in the locker room, or they're gonna put him out. You know, I'm saying, like, you need a guy like Eddie Kingston around you because he can really help you in terms of shooting straight. That's the good thing about it, having a friend like him or a guy like him that you know. He'll shoot straight with you, but he also seemed like a guy where if you get on his bad side, he's going to nitpick you until you fight him, and that guy's poison to be around. That guy's absolute poison to be around. You know, if you're on his good side, you could be his best friend. Like what, Dax was, talking about here. Oh, he texted me to see how my family's doing and all that kind of stuff. I can see that. I can see him being that much of a sweetheart. But I also see him being the kind of guy who will hold a grudge for 10 years. You know? Him saying, I hate all you Ring of Honor guys. You guys ran me out of Ring of Honor. That was like 15 years ago. But he don't care. Oh, man. Oh, my God. He's this generation's Dusty Rhodes. I don't know, man. I like the guy, but to say that he's this generation's Dusty Rhodes is to give him way too much. Not just give him way too much of a spotlight, but it's unfair to Eddie Kingston for him to be compared to Dusty like this. Don't do that. Don't compare him to Dusty. It seems to me that he wants to be Eddie Kingston. He wants to be he actually idolizes the Japanese wrestlers and all that kind of stuff more. So that might actually be a smarter deal, is to say he wants to be like some of the Japanese wrestlers or whatever. Eddie Kingston will probably fight everybody and end up losing his job because he's stupid. He's a stupid guy. All right. Let's do one more before we get to Elimination Chamber predictions. Jake the Snake Roberts, he goes on Peter Rosenberg's podcast and says this: they don't listen to me at all. Their idea is like, I got a fat fucking contract and we'll ride this. I get it. 10 years from now, half those guys, you won't even remember their names. I say 85% of them, you won't even remember their names because they're flash in the pans and they don't have any character. Jake the Snake has not been in the ring since 1997. 2000? That's 20-something years, and I'm so friggin' busy now, man. I'm barely keeping my head above the water. I'm being buried with people wanting me to do things. I don't see these young kids doing signings, and you know why? Because nobody knows who the fuck they are. They go, oh, wait, I've seen him on TV. And then they see how little they are. Holy shit, they're really blown away then. Wow. He ain't been in the ring in 20 years, but he's still busy, and these guys, nobody's going to know who they are. He said they don't listen to me. I think he's talking about the AEW backstage area. Now, people have tried to generalize this as him saying 85% of all wrestlers, which is still kind of a good point, but do you remember 85% of any roster? Jake the Snakes, like, I watched Wrestling Challenge up to the part where they cut it off, which is like a month or two before WrestleMania 3. So I watched 86, 87 Wrestling Challenge, WWF. Every time I watched that show, I saw somebody I didn't see before, or somebody I forgot existed, or something that I forgot happened. Like that Roman Reigns' daddy was a solo wrestler for a long time. I forgot about the Moondogs. I forgot they existed. There's plenty of guys, that you see on that roster, and you're like, whoa, that guy, he existed? He was a thing? he's not wrong. You know, there's going to be probably 10 or 15 people from each generation who are going to break through and become somewhat household names. But you're not going to remember most wrestlers growing up. You're going to forget about most of them. They're going to be on the tip of your tongue. They're going to be in the back of your mind, but you're not really going to be like, dang, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know that guy. It's probably not going to come to you. You know, if you go back through the attitude there, like there's like old Twitter accounts and stuff like that that's dedicated to like long dead gimmicks like Mordecai. And every time I look at one of those joints, I see somebody I don't think I've ever seen before. You know, I just look at it and be like, I don't think I've ever seen this guy before in my life. And they'd be like, he was in WWE from June till August. And you'd be like, oh, no wonder I didn't see this guy before. He's only there for like 4 months. But there's people out there who, because they have like a Twitter account or something like that, they dig through this stuff and they remember, or they are reminded, and then they remind you. But I often will see these accounts and be like, I have no earthly idea, none whatsoever, what's happening here, you know, or why this guy exists, or what to do about his existence. You know, it's it was weird. G Coalition Brother says, I'm starting to think Lance Archer cutting off Jake's promos on a regular basis was based on the AEW young guys' real life tendencies. Hey, speaking of Lance Archer, did you know he tweeted out the other day that he hasn't put on his boots in 5 months? That's cold-blooded. Because I haven't seen him on AEW either. Forgot he was even working there. Forgot he even worked there. King Mike's World, these old school wrestlers need to call it a career. They're mad because they think everyone is supposed to respect them, but they don't try to earn the respect of the younger talent. Well, here's the thing. What is Jake the Snake Roberts supposed to do to earn their respect? He's a legend in the business that they work in. He has achieved heights greater than all of theirs. You know, he main evented a lot of shows, worked in the territories, worked with all of the top guys that, you know, was of his era and of his time, including like guys like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and all those guys, Randy Savage. He made money. He drew money. He still sell merchandise. Here he is in his 60s. He still gets paid to do round tables and stuff like that. What else is he supposed to do? He's supposed to get in the ring and wrestle with these guys? There's nothing he can do. If you don't want to listen to Jake the Snake Roberts, who is a name, who is trying to tell you, at least give you an idea of how to help you, if you don't want to listen to him, I mean, the fault is yours. You know, like his respect should have come in the fact that you're in a business that he is well known in. I mean, see, the thing is, people want to have it both ways. They want to say, don't listen to Disco Inferno. He was a job guy. He was a nobody. Don't listen to him. And then everybody kind of nods like, yeah, Disco Inferno was a job guy. But then when it's Jake the Snake Roberts, who is a legend that nobody can deny, then it's, well, you need to earn their respect. It's like, well, no, he did all the stuff. He did all the things that they're trying to do. He's trying to get them to that point. You know, there was a time in his life where Jake Roberts wouldn't even be trying to do this stuff. You know, he wouldn't have cared. He'd have been so selfish, he wouldn't have cared. So I think they caught him at a good time. It was like a perfect storm. Tully Blanchard's another one. Perfect storm. There was for years Tully Blanchard didn't really have nothing for the wrestling business. He wasn't really even involved. And then you got all of these guys in AEW, and it's kind of like, yeah, well, I don't need to. I got this nice little TV contract. Why should I listen to you? And it's like, because I did everything that you're trying to do, you know? I don't know. Like, is it like, you know, when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when LeBron James broke his record, he talked about it like he said he didn't even really care. He's 75 years old. He kind of enjoys getting down and playing with the great grandkids or whatever. He doesn't really think about that scoring championship or whatever too much. And he didn't really care about it. But my thing is, if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or somebody like that came into your locker room, and what are you going to say? You got to earn my respect? It's like, do you not see that he put up championships? He got rings. His jersey is retired. He's a bona fide legend and a crossover star. People know who he is. Why would you not listen to him? What is it about? Like, I know Jake Roberts had his issues with the drugs and everything, but if he's talking to you about wrestling, why are you not listening? What do you know that he don't know? Is my question. You know, like, what do you know about wrestling that Jake the Snake Roberts doesn't know? You know, and I'm one of those people that believe you can learn from anybody because you never know what anybody's experiences are, and people are constantly bringing new things in. So there's always some dialogue to be had, you know, back and forth. But you know, you got two pair of ears, one mouth. Probably better to listen instead of talk. But it seems like the dudes are not even willing to listen. So that's shameful. You know, Disco Inferno had action figures. Please, I don't. I'm beginning to. I don't even want to believe. I believe it, but I don't want to believe it. I believe it, but I don't want to believe it. %90 of these wrestlers are just using his name and legacy for clout. Who? That's my question. Who? The thing is, a lot of the 80s wrestling will work today. It will work because throwback is good. You know, sometimes, you know, throwback is the best stuff you can do. You know, and guys don't utilize it because not a lot of people do it. It'll probably get over just the same today as it would have back then, likely because not a lot of people do it today. So you'll probably be looking at it as like you're a guy who is doing what's, you know, doing things the way it's supposed to be done. But since so many people do it differently, it'll look creative when you come up with it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. But saying you're not going to listen to Jake Roberts is pretty ballsy. You know, saying you're going to basically just say Jake Roberts is, you know, some old crackhead and you're not going to listen to him. It's like, okay. To them, Jake the Snake Roberts is not Stone Cold or The Rock. Stone Cold or The Rock are not going to be in the same room with you. That's the thing I'm thinking about. Like, it's a bizarre thing where if you only think that 5 people ever are stars in wrestling, you're never going to meet those people. I don't think they're ever going to be in the room with Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock. You know, if Chris Jericho is the closest that you can get, listen to fucking Chris Jericho. If Jake Roberts is the closest that you can get, you should listen to Jake Roberts. You know, if you are not in the position to be what's the word I'm looking for? Educated by these guys, you're probably in the wrong business. Either you may be the super draw and you can draw on your own without, you know, being booked or whatever. You just print money. Then you can say I don't need to listen to nobody else and I'm successful. But I don't think that way. I think there's always things that you can learn, you know, and I've been hearing so often that the AEW locker room is not listening. And look, I know the WWE is probably the same. And there's probably going to be a lot of NXT talent who are probably going to be, they're going to come and go. You're not going to remember who they are. I mean, unless some miracle happens within the next 2 or 3 years, you may see Dante Chen on some kind of wrestling show, and you might be able to not even recognize that guy. Especially when in like 10 or 15 years when he grows like a mustache or something, you're probably not even going to know that guy was even in WWE. You know, like I saw pictures of Maven recently, and I didn't even know it was him. I see pictures of Mark Mero sometimes. I'm like, who? Like that doesn't even look like Mark Mero. You know, like if I wasn't in the space that I am, I wouldn't recognize Mark Mero. I wouldn't even know who he is. He's not like some huge superstar either. He's one of the 85% from the 90s. Where you probably, if you saw Mark Mero in your church or in Save a Lot or something like that, you probably wouldn't walk up to him and ask him for an autograph. You probably wouldn't even know to do that. You know? Because he's not a huge superstar like that, even though he was on national TV. You know, it's an interesting thing, man. You know, Eric Max says, I'd rather have Joey Mercury be my road agent, not Jake the Snake. Well, in today's world, maybe. But then you'll have to worry about Joey Mercury fucking your wife. Oh, sorry, I didn't even mean to say that. King Mike's World. I'm a hardcore wrestling fan. I've never been interested in watch Jake the Snake or a lot of these old school legends like Greg the Hammer. Greg the Hammer Valentine was definitely a product of the 80s. But to say you're not going to watch Jake the Snake Roberts is just crazy. That's just crazy. That guy had too many good matches. He had too many good matches, angles, programs, and promos and stuff for you to not watch Jake the Snake Roberts. Greg the Hammer Valentine, okay, I can see you skipping over, you know, he's the work rate guy of the 80s. That's kind of like, you know, skipping some of the work rate guys today. But Jake the Snake, nah, he's not a skippable one. He's not one of those ones you can get away with just saying, I heard of him. Nah, you got to sit down and watch Jake. Jake is one you got to watch that. You got to. He was the flip side to Roddy Piper in the 80s. You know, he was so good. WG Field, they can't even listen to the indie favorites like Dean Malenko and Jerry Lynn, people that inspired their whole moveset on. I wonder how much talking Dean Malenko actually does. Like, I just wonder how much talking these guys actually do. I'm pretty sure they don't even talk that much anymore. They probably just sit back and be like, you guys do it. You guys know what to do. And then they go out there and tank the ratings and nobody buys the shows or anything like that. Greg Valentine broke Wahoo's leg. That was great. That was great, wasn't it? One of the few times Greg Valentine was actually very interesting. But in his whole time in WWE, it was just work rate city. Work rate city, man. You can't have a good match with Greg Valentine, you suck. But on the flip side of it, you had a match with Greg Valentine that son of a gun was like 30 minutes. Oh my God. And then it was like that until the late 80s. Like WrestleMania, what was it, WrestleMania 4, where he had that time limit draw with Steamboat? I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this match is still going on. Like, I can't believe it's still happening. You know, it was still going on. I think somewhere that match is still going on. That match is still happening. Yeah, I can hear Gorilla Monsoon now. You know, the Hammer, you can beat him up. He don't get warmed up for 30 minutes. And you're like, oh, no. I like Greg Valentine, but time and place, dog. Time and place. He was a work rate guy in WWF at the time. You had to be there. You had to be there for a Greg Valentine to get that gimmick. But I don't disagree with Jake Roberts. I think you won't remember most of these wrestlers in 10 years. You know, it's just unfortunate that him saying that will offend so many people when not only is it a fact, but it's not that big of a deal because you don't remember 85% of the wrestlers who come out of these promotions anyway. Most of them don't matter. You know, most of them, who cares about 90% of these guys who come out of these various promotions? They don't make a huge splash in the business, despite the fact that people claim that they're going to. I don't know how many times I sat back and heard people talk about a guy like Gary Albright. You know, he's going to be a star in this business. And it's like, is he really? I don't know this. Who is this guy? And why should we care? You know, and not only did he not become what they wanted him to be, he just didn't reappear after he left WWE. He didn't go anywhere. He just vanished off the face of the earth. And that, it is what it is. I hear that all the time. Amazing Red. You know, now I do give Amazing Red some credit. He took, cruiserweight wrestling to another level. But it was he was still just a work rate guy. All right, let's get into the Elimination Chamber predictions before we get out of here. Vegeta Lover 92 says, did Greg have a match with Mr. Perfect or Bret Hart? I'm pretty sure he had. Bret Hart was on a tag team for most of the time that Greg Valentine was in WWE in the early days when he would have been a single star. Bret Hart was on a tag team through most of that time. I'm pretty sure they did have a match. Now, Mr. Perfect, I'm not sure. They both would have been heels, so probably not. But I'm pretty sure Greg Valentine worked against Bret Hart in some capacity, whether it's a tag team match or a singles match. I'm pretty sure they had a singles match on TV, but I can't think of it off the top of my head of where it would have been. But when Greg Valentine was the Intercontinental Champion, that was before Tito, I think, and Bret wasn't even really in the company yet. I think he worked there, but he was like underneath guy. When Greg Valentine was a single, I think Bobby the Brain Heenan, Bret was on a tag, and he was a heel too. So I don't think so. But I'm pretty sure they did have some matches, probably in the early 90s. All right. Let's go into Elimination Chamber 2023. Oh, I'm not going to make it 2 hours flat. You probably only get to like 2 hours and 10 minutes or so. All right. Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar, singles match. All right. A lot of people are saying this should be some kind of disqualification, some kind of count out, something to pitch this to WrestleMania. I agree with that. I think there probably will be some kind of gimmick to pull this to WrestleMania. And I think we need to try to figure out what kind of gimmick it's going to be. Like, what kind of match could these two guys conceivably have at WrestleMania that would be really, really fun? Could it be somebody is saying they want a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania? I don't know about Hell in a Cell. Last Man Standing, I can see them trying to do that. But I think Brock had a Last Man Standing match last year at SummerSlam with Roman. Does he want to do Last Man Standing again? An MMA match? Lion's Den, Fight Pit, Falls Count Anywhere. Falls Count Anywhere could be fun. I don't know when the last time they had a Falls Count Anywhere match at WrestleMania. What about kind of I Quit match or something like that? That could be like real badass. But I think we all agree that this match is probably going to end in some kind of chicanery, right? It's going to be some kind of nonsense where it's not going to be a clear finish and nobody's going to win or lose. And they're going to continue this beef to WrestleMania. Because I don't see any other reason for these two guys to, like, because if Brock wins, then what, Bobby chases him to WrestleMania? If Bobby wins, then Brock continues to chase him to WrestleMania rather than just leaving this unresolved and they go into WrestleMania, which seems to be the best option. All right, second match. Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Damian Priest. No, I'm sorry, versus Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. All right. Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. Okay. I think you want Rhea to win because she won the Royal Rumble and you want to keep her strong going into WrestleMania. Maybe you have her go overboard on Beth in order for Charlotte to make the save. Because Charlotte doesn't wrestle on this show. So maybe you have Edge and Finn. And I think Edge and Finn is probably going to be the match for WrestleMania. So maybe we do something where Finn takes out Edge, maybe all of Judgment Day, takes out Edge. And then Rhea Ripley kind of goes ham on Beth Phoenix. In which case, Charlotte can make the save to add some heat to that feud. Maybe that's where we go with this. But I don't see Beth Phoenix winning. But I don't see Finn Balor beating Edge, because Finn Balor beating Edge would make no sense, especially if they're going to have the match at WrestleMania. Ripley and Finn have to win, because she got to go into her title match strong. So Ripley has to win. Either that or Finn's going to take the loss, and that's going to suck. So we're going to go with I'm going to go with Ripley and Finn. A lot of people are saying pass because they don't care about this match. They've been building this match up forever, and people don't care about it. This feud has been going on for a long time, though. This feud has been going on for almost a year. Almost a full calendar year. Kind of ridiculous when you think about it in the long term, right? All right. Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn. Singles match. Undisputed WWE Championship. I think we're all in agreement that Roman Reigns is going to defeat Sami Zayn. Now, since the Usos can't be in Montreal, what are they going to do in order to get us to that next level? Edge lost in Canada before. Edge, not a big deal for Edge to lose in Canada. What should they? Okay, so how do you get the Usos involved in a match in which they can't be in the country? That's assuming they can't be in the country, because I don't know for sure that they can't be in the country. So let's assume that they can't be in the country. And how do we tell the story that continues the Usos story? Yeah, you could have Solo Sikoa get involved, but I think you want to shoot the angle that's going to be Sammy and Kevin versus the Usos for WrestleMania. And I think the best way to shoot that angle is to have the Usos jump Sami Zayn, beat the tar out of him, and then you basically take that to the next level. Of course, a lot of people, well, myself included, was expecting Jay to do something to Sammy here, and for that to lead us to WrestleMania. But it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to do that. So I'm not sure how we're going to get to that point. But I think it's almost guaranteed that it is guaranteed that Roman, unless he gets injured mid-match and has an aneurysm and dies or something like that, Roman is walking out of Elimination Chamber as the champion. And I think if he does have an aneurysm and keel over, Sami Zayn better be smart enough to pull Roman on top of him and stay down. There's no way Roman's going to leave this show losing. If he fucking has a stroke, if he pulls a DeMar Hamlin, I guarantee you Sami Zayn's going to be smart enough to find some way where Roman ends up on top of him for a 3 count if he's smart. Here's one. What if Roman's emotions get the best of him and Roman gets DQ'd? Well, he got DQ'd against Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins never got a rematch. So maybe they could do that. Maybe Sammy does pull some garbage in the middle of the show, and Sammy gets disqualified, but he doesn't win the title. So he wins the match, but he doesn't win the title. And we still end up shooting the angle for the tag team championships. I don't know. That just doesn't sit right with me, though. Like, something has to happen in which Sami Zayn is humiliated in front of these people. And in order to a hero to emerge, that being Kevin Owens, and to shoot the angle for the tag team match at WrestleMania. You have to solve these two problems. You have to shoot the angle for WrestleMania, because this is going to be the largest audience that they're going to end up having for this show. Because people are into the honorary Uso angle. So you got to shoot an angle for this show to get people to watch Raw and then SmackDown for the next couple of weeks. So you got to shoot something on this show to get us to that point, which got to involve the Usos. But if they can't be in the country, do you do something? Maybe you can't even do it on SmackDown, because SmackDown is also in Montreal. So what do you do? Like, maybe you, and it might be smart enough to do this, like they have the Usos, they show like a video of the Usos jumping Sami Zayn in the parking lot. It could have been recorded 2 weeks ago, but the Usos jump Sami Zayn in the parking lot. Maybe Jay is, got his face covered or whatever. They make you think it's Solo Sikoa, but it's not. It's Jay. And then near the end, Jay lifts his hood, and he's beat the tar out of Sami Zayn. And then Sami Zayn music plays, and he comes out all beat up, and starts the match beat up. That way, when Roman wins, you can blame the Usos. Maybe you could do that. There's a lot of, I don't know, but Kevin Owens got to make the save at the end. So you got to set up a situation where he can make the save at the end. And you can do that with Solo. Clearly you can do that with Solo, but how do you shoot the tag team angle at that point? Maybe you have Kevin Owens talk Sami Zayn into challenging for the tag team titles. That might be the way to go, But Roman's not going to lose the titles here. So going through that just seems a little nonsensical to me. Seems kind of goofy to even go that route. If Jay can get into Canada, then you got a chance. You got a chance to shoot something then. You got to shoot an angle here. That's what this is about. This ain't about a match. It's about an angle here. You got to shoot an angle. Maybe Riddle could show up to attack Solo. I forgot about him. That would be something if the Samoan Legacy ran over Sami Zayn with their car. And I did it for the tribal chief, the head of the table. Yeah, Matt Riddle coming into the country. Oh boy. You're not gonna let the drunks in, but we're gonna let Matt Riddle in. Yeah, right. We ain't gonna let the Alkies in, but we gonna let Matt Riddle in. Come on. No. All right. So Roman's gonna win. The angle to get us to the tag team championship match is up in the air. I'm legitimately interested in that. I may have to make I'm gonna tell y'all what matter of fact, let me think about what I'm gonna make for that show. Because I want to make something. I may make some nachos or some chili or some tacos. I think I want to make some tacos. I don't like corn tortillas though. I know that's authentic, quote unquote, but I don't need authentic. I need it for it to be tasty. I called them the drunks, didn't I? I'm sorry. Anyway, women's Elimination Chamber match. Asuka versus Liv Morgan versus Nikki Cross versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Natalya versus Carmella. Winner faces Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. They're going to do Liv Morgan versus Asuka on SmackDown. Why? I don't know. I have no idea why. Yes, Asuka is going to win this match without question. Now they could have spiced it up by putting Becky Lynch or Bayley into this match. They chose not to. So instead, Asuka's just going to run the table, and I think this match should start the show because this is the most obvious one, right? Outside of Roman and Sami, this is the most obvious decision. You don't do stupid things and put Nikki Cross over. You don't do stupid things and put Natalya or Carmella over. Liv Morgan, there's a better chance of her winning the Rumble than winning this. She's probably about to get her ass kicked by Asuka on SmackDown too. So Asuka's gonna run the table, And as a way of rebuilding Asuka, it could be fun, Yeah, Triple H he's not a Liv Morgan guy. Triple H is not a Liv Morgan guy. Her push died as soon as he took over. As soon as Triple H took over, Liv Morgan's, just like Austin Theory, just like a couple of other people, the moment Triple H took over, their push went, it went into the gutter. Vince was actually trying with Liv Morgan. Like he did this wonderful video package. Remember when Liv had her title match against Becky Lynch, And they did just almost WrestleMania like video package for Liv about, when she was a child and her mom and all this kind of stuff. And then she ends up losing. She wasn't quite dead yet, but that was that was a head crack moment for me. I was like, damn, WWE ain't playing around. We're gonna talk about Austin Theory in a minute. Give me 1 second. But Liv Morgan is not a Triple H favorite, and you can tell. She hasn't been anywhere near the title picture since she lost the title. She hasn't been featured nearly as much as she used to be. She was, I think, genuinely over with the audience who really was into her character. But Triple H was like, gotta have Ronda Rousey. Gotta be Ronda. I wrestled Ronda at WrestleMania. She's a big star. And it's like, ugh. So Triple H forced Ronda Rousey upon us. And that killed Liv, if we're being honest. And she ain't been the same ever since. And that's been the official position of Triple H, is to derail people, and spill the contamination all in the air. You just kind of sit back and look like, oh, I remember when this person had something going on, and then nothing. And then nothing. And you're like, oh, wow. Wow. So Asuka is going to win. Asuka versus Bianca Belair is huge. I like that. So let's go with Asuka. Asuka's going to win. All right, the 5th match, main event. I'm guessing it'll probably be the pre-main event. Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Montez Ford, United States Championship Elimination Chamber match. So Montez Ford, I expect him to make some noise in this match. I expect him to make a splash off the cage. Of course, Theory is going to win because they're talking about Theory wrestling John Cena, which makes no sense. It's dumb. I don't see why you would do that, but it is what it is. Let's say Austin Theory. How many matches has Austin Theory had on Raw this year? 1, 2, maybe. How many promo segments has he had this year? Not many. Not many at all. When you compare Austin Theory's exposure as United States champion to Chad Gable, is he on television as much as Chad Gable? No, he is not. Is he on television as much as even Baron Corbin? Nope, he's not. You would think that if a guy like Austin Theory, who was a guy that Vince was pushing him hard, and maybe Vince was pushing him too hard. You can argue that point. It's an arguable position. But to think that his push has not been greatly affected by Triple H's takeover, that's just being naive. He's not buried, quote unquote. He hasn't lost enough to be buried. But the idea that Austin Theory is in a strong position, that's also false. That failed cash-in was absolutely abysmal. It was bad TV. It was a bad idea. I still see people trying to make the excuse that it wasn't. He didn't need the money in the bank. He wasn't going to beat Roman Reigns. Nobody was going to beat Roman Reigns. That's the thing that people don't seem to understand here, son. Nobody was going to beat him. So what? Is nobody ever supposed to challenge him for the title? It doesn't matter whether he was going to win or not. What mattered is that he had a huge victory and an opportunity, a reason to be on TV, a reason to be seen, for people to actually care that he's floating around here on television. There was a reason for him to be there. And he had a full calendar year. There's no reason for you to even say he wasn't going to beat Roman Reigns. He didn't have to beat Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is going to lose the title at WrestleMania. He still would have been Mr. Money in the Bank after WrestleMania. He could have wrestled Cody for the title and lost. It wouldn't have mattered. None of it matters. You don't cash in the Money in the Bank for the United States title. It's ridiculous. That's the single most ridiculous angle. I remain is one of the dumbest damn things I've seen in a long time. You might as well just get rid of the Money in the Bank briefcase at that point, dog. I would have much rather if he'd have cashed in on Braun Breaker. I probably would have complained, but at least it would have made sense. You know, because Charlotte, when she won the Royal Rumble, she challenged for the NXT title. So, of course, the Money in the Bank, okay, you can use the Money in the Bank for the NXT belt. All right, cool. It would have been a way of getting Theory off of Raw if he felt like he wasn't ready yet, or whatever the case may be. But just having him carry the U.S. title, talking about he's not a kid and I'm the future. I'm not the future. I'm the now. I'm the now. It's like, but you're the now doing what? Doing what? Like, this is an attempt, a pathetic attempt, if you're being honest, at trying to raise the relevance of the United States title by putting it in an Elimination Chamber match. Having a guy like Seth Rollins and having a guy like Lashley float around this title for months and months has raised its profile. But when the champion is barely on television, to the point people forgot the belt even exists, because everybody else is bigger than the title, therefore bigger than the champion, it doesn't make much sense. Look at how they book Gunther and tell me that they're doing a good job with Austin Theory. Look at how they book Gunther. And you think that Austin Theory has been positioned appropriately? Gunther's always on TV. He's not always wrestling, but he's always on TV. Austin Theory, sometimes weeks go by, you don't see him. He wasn't even on Raw this week. This was the go home show in which his title is on the line. I don't even think he was on this show this week. He's almost never promoted as the champion. All he does is say, the champ is here. And that's it. It's like, I don't. This is a sad excuse of elevating the United States Championship. Theory is going to win because nobody else in this match should probably be United States Champion except him. Nobody else can really use it. Damian Priest, what is he going to do with it? You know, he can't really do anything with it. Bronson Reed shouldn't be in this match, really, because he's not going to win it, so he shouldn't be in it. Gargano, I could see Gargano being an opponent for Austin Theory. I could see Gargano maybe winning the title because Triple H does love him some Johnny Gargano. I could also see Seth Rollins maybe winning the title. But to do what? That's what I want to know. Like, if he's going to be wrestling Logan Paul, does he really want to be United States champion? I don't know. I don't know. But this is going to be a coming out party for Bronson Reed. He needs to have a really good match here, because if he doesn't, he's going to continue getting crickets. And I know a lot of people have just been really laughing at Bronson Reed for not being over. But it's a simple question. What has he done that he should be over? What has he done? He hasn't done anything, right? He showed up, beat up Dexter Lumis. I don't think they even had a match. Or unless they did have a match and it was so quick, I don't remember it. And that was it. It went away. It was over. And it was like, wow, okay. And then they moved on to something else. he hasn't cut a promo. He hasn't had an opportunity to cut a promo or do anything. Oh, yes, of course, he was the guy who beat Okada. I got to remember that. He was that guy. He beat Okada. They trusted him. He was so trusted by New Japan, he beat Okada. Good Lord. You know what? I keep saying Mr. Wrestling in the chat. If Logan Paul wanted to really troll people, that's what he should start calling himself. He should call himself Mr. Wrestling. Just to troll Seth Rollins. Like, I'm in the wrestling space now. Call me Mr. Wrestling. I wouldn't put the US belt on him. I would not put any belt on Logan Paul. He's a special attraction. Don't do that. Because then he's not going to be around enough to defend it. So, no, don't do that. You know, but Bronson Reed's not going to win the title, so why is he in here? Damian Priest is not going to win. It's okay if he loses, but I want more for that guy. That guy's very good. I like him. He fell down the pole. Like he went from being number 2 in Judgment Day to being dead last in Judgment Day. Everybody else is far more interested in Damian Priest right now. Johnny Gargano is the worst option outside of putting the belt on Seth Rollins to wrestle Logan Paul. But so I got to go with Theory winning, and that's if they decide to go with Theory and Cena. But you will have to explain why they would do that, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so that is the Elimination Chamber predictions. All right, so this is a good question, because I'm going to answer this one question, then we're going to get out of here. Jay White. Now, New Japan has been, basically they've been burying him on his way out. He's leaving. He lost a loser leaves Japan match to Hikuleo, who is a greenhorn. I mean, Hikuleo is not, he's not awful, but he's not great either. He's a lower card wrestler who beat, Jay White was world champion a month ago. Like literally on the 4th, he main evented the Tokyo Dome. The next big event, he can't beat Hikuleo. That's stupid. That's stupid booking. That was disgusting. That was disturbing. But they're just trying to get him out of the door. They want him to lose on his way out. All right, cool. Weird enough, people were talking about Hikuleo being snatched by WWE too, because they were talking about him and Tama Tonga. I guess Hikuleo is staying. I don't know. Then they shot this angle where Jay White is banished to the United States. He can't wrestle in Japan anymore. And he gets into an argument with EDDIE Kingston, in which him and Eddie agreed to a loser leaves New Japan match. And he's likely to lose that match too. I don't know. I think that match is going to be on the 18th. So it's going to be the same night as Elimination Chamber, if I remember correctly. It's going to be the same night as Elimination Chamber. The same night, your girl Mercedes is going to wrestle Kairi for the women's championship. So that's probably going to be a big event, that Battle in the Valley. I'm going to have to actually find some time to watch it, because it's going to be a nice little shift in the business. Mercedes is likely going to beat Kairi and win that championship, because she's going to end up being the face of Stardom internationally, because she's an international superstar. Then you're probably going to have Jay White wrestle his last match in New Japan, because he's likely to lose to EDDIE Kingston. Now, why EDDIE Kingston of all people, I don't know. I know that they said Tanahashi and Okada are wrestling each other in that show. I don't know why that would be. Why not have Tanahashi retire Jay White and, get him out of there? Why does it have to be EDDIE Kingston? They're just denigrating Jay White. And that tells me that he's probably going to WWE. But it also says that he might go to AEW, because his last opponent apparently is going to be an AEW guy. Now, that being said, how would a Jay White in WWE work? My answer is I don't know. His skill set is not really best suited for WWE. He's a New Japan dojo boy. He really works hard in that system. And his strong suit is not really promos. His strong suit is not really character work. You know, in the Bullet Club, their promos were essentially them cursing in English, which is provocative to the Japanese, and them being generic, black jacket white boys. That's essentially it in terms of Bullet Club in Japan. His gimmick is that he basically cusses a lot, which is what Japan wants. They want them guys to curse a lot because that's what got them over. I don't see how that works in WWE. I don't know how that works. Do I see him going to AEW? I think he fits in AEW. I think he gets the bag in AEW. I think he probably makes more money in AEW. Probably gets a better schedule in AEW. I think he probably fits better in AEW. G Coalition, brother, I am very familiar with Jay White. Trust me. Promos and character work is not as strong as his in-ring stuff. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but when you look at Jay White, you think of mostly of his matches, not necessarily of his promos or his character work. A lot of it, especially not to the level of WWE, is still very subtle. He fits in AEW because that's where a lot of the Bullet Club stuff ends up getting dumped off anyway. AEW needs him. WWE doesn't really need him. AEW does need Jay White. They need a shot in the arm. They need a top money draw. They need a money drawing babyface, if we're being honest. And Jay White is a heel. They need a money drawing babyface. In AEW. They don't have one currently outside of. Well, they don't have one currently. Danielson is in Orange Cassidy. They're doing the best that they can. They don't have no money drawing babyfaces. So AEW kind of needs that. But WWE has some tricks up their sleeve too, I think. I'm looking at the free agent market. I said there's two guys. There's Jay White, there's Nick Aldis. I'm thinking WWE is probably going to get Nick Aldis and not get Jay White. It'll be one hell of a story if they manage to get them both. But I think they're probably more likely to get Nick Aldis, and then AEW would get Jay White. And that seems to be about right to me. Nick Aldis is a very sort of classical world champion, somebody that Triple H can respect. He's not over the top when it comes to character work. He can really cut promos. He can sell his stuff. He knows what he's doing. He's a little bit older, which is Triple H sends to like guys who are in their mid-30s. So, Jay White's a little young for Triple H's push. Triple H isn't pushing really young guys right now, really, outside of NXT. But Jay White is like early 30s, if not just plain 30. I think he fits in AEW better. But what AEW be able to increase his profile? I don't think so. I don't think so. I see him signing with AEW because Tony Khan has that sort of connection with New Japan. But I don't see Jay White coming to WWE. Kota Ibushi is another one. I forgot about him. I see, again, Tony Khan is going to overspend for these talents. I see Jay White and Kota Ibushi both having Brinks trucks backed up to their houses because Tony Khan really, really wants them. and his fan base really, really likes them. While Triple H is kind of like, they're nice to haves, but they're not must haves. You know, they're must haves for AEW. You know, they're guys who, for his audience, these guys matter. For WWE's audience, they have to educate, you know, the audience with these guys, and we're probably not going to be worth the money. So Kota Ibushi, AEW for sure. Jay White, AEW. Nick Aldis, WWE. He can't go back to NWA, and going down doesn't seem to make much sense. And if he was going to sign to AEW, why hasn't he done it yet? There has been a lot of guys supposedly signed to WWE contracts that haven't popped up yet. Of course, Dragon Lee, Carl Fredericks, Vincent, a bunch of people who supposedly have WWE deals, and they haven't popped up on TV yet. And I'm guessing it's for after WrestleMania. Eric Young, a couple of other people too. So I can see there being like a new rush of talent, you know, right after WrestleMania. You know, they're going to probably have some new people trickle in for WWE. The idea that Triple H may find Jay White as an important piece, I don't see why they would feel that way. I like Jay White, I really do, but I'm looking at how much I would spend for him. What position would I put him in? What would I do with him? What would his storyline be? He would come in and you throw him with the Good Brothers? You do another Bullet Club like angle with him and Finn? Or him and AJ when he returns? Okay, then what? That's like, let's say a year worth of stories right there. If he do Bullet Club retread stuff for like a year, then what? You know, I don't know. He can't use Switchblade, you know, mainly because it's kind of, I think it would probably be not something they would want you to use in WWE with the knives and everything. Probably don't want you to do that. It has to come up with like a more PG name. They probably have to change his name. It probably won't even be Jay White anymore. It'll probably be like Jay Black or something. Jay Red. Jay Blue. Depending on whether he's going to be on Raw or SmackDown. But he's a top guy. I like Jay White, but I think he can get to the top a lot faster in AEW. Now, looking at guys like Adam Cole, maybe not. But I don't know. You know, WWE probably ain't willing to spend the money on him that AEW will. I think AEW is going to give him that bag. You know, I think they're going to give him that bag. So we'll see in a couple of weeks. But that Battle in the Valley ought to be a pretty interesting show. It's going to be the end of Jay White, more than likely, and the beginning of Mercedes Moné and her run at the top. So that's going to be cool. AJ3 says AEW gets Jay White and Kota Ibushi debut him day one, and then they go back to catering, and you won't see him for a few months. No, they're going to be on TV. We're going to hear from Jay White next. Jay White's got something to say right here on AEW Dynamite. And then he's going to do that for like 2 months. And then all of a sudden, they're going to have the big match with Moxley, big match with Hangman, big match with Danielson. Then he's going to start disappearing. Then he's going to start disappearing. I don't want any Bullet Club stuff in WWE at all because all of this old, washed NWO stuff. I want it all gone. You know, I know that WWE also wants Tama Tonga. I think he's in his 40s now, I think. You know, he's finally starting to get ready to leave. So maybe they'll just have an influx of talent from New Japan, which would defeat the purpose of NXT. Because they'd be like, okay, why would you know, if you're just going to keep signing people and bringing them in, what are you going to do with your NXT talents, bro? You know, like, I don't know. But it ought to be interesting. I like Jay White. I'm just not sure how he alters himself to fit WWE, or what position they would put him in. Because the question would be how many people in the audience actually knows him, versus how many people in AEW would know him. Would WWE be able to pay more than AEW? And why would they? Because if you're gonna pay for a guy like Jay White, and you're probably gonna push him in a certain position, okay, you're gonna have a freshly minted world champion at this point. I forgot to put that Nikki Bella thing about her being the most hated wrestler. I forgot about that. We'll talk about that some other time. I'll maybe do a short or something about it. I forgot all about that. Okay, let's say he's a top heel. All right, so you have a freshly minted babyface in Cody. He's going to be your world champion supposedly after WrestleMania. What do? You have Jay White wrestle him, lose, and then what? Because unless she beats Cody, then you give him the belt in what, a month? Like, what position did you really put him in? You have him wrestle Seth Rollins for 6 months or whatever? I don't know. Like, I just don't know what you do with him to get people behind him. Especially as a babyface, or as a heel rather, because the bloodline is very strong right now. But Raw could use some more strong heels. They're definitely going to need them. That's why. Well, I'm not sure. I would like for Jay White to be in WWE. I think that would be fun, but I'm not so sure that they what they're going to do with him. Yeah, Nakamura disappeared. That is true. He's vanished. Ever since his trip to Japan, he's been gone. I don't know. Who would get a bigger pop in WWE, Jay White or Nick Aldis? I think Jay White, because it'd be a bigger surprise. But I think Nick Aldis will have a better career, if we're being honest. I think he's more versatile. He's a little bit older. I just want to see how Jay White will cut promos without the over reliance on cursing and that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. I'm interested in that. Jay White with having bangers with Dolph Ziggler. It would be nice if we can get Randy Orton back soon, wouldn't it? I think they're probably going to save him for after WrestleMania too. I don't know, man. The Jay White sweepstakes is pretty sweet. It's pretty cool, but I just don't know how we get there. Like, what do we do with him? We sign the guy, and then what? Again, we got a lot of Bullet Club guys in WWE. That Bullet Club thing doesn't seem to stick like everybody thinks it does. WWE has a greater hit percentage with things that they created themselves, rather than trying to piggyback off of other people's stuff. Wait till you see Jay White versus The Miz, which is everybody is talking about. Oh, he's going to have a match with The Miz. I'm like, yeah, he probably will. And guess what? The Miz will probably get him over, because The Miz knows what he's doing. He makes himself so annoying that people pop him every time he gets hit. Bullet Club should have been ended years ago. Everybody's still talking about it. They're still fighting each other. It's all dumb. All right. It's 10:40. It's time to wrap this thing up, y'all. I appreciate everybody who came in. Thank you for your time. Yeah, Bobby Roode reminds me a lot of Nick Aldis. That's why I said Nick Aldis will probably have a better career, because I think that he gives me Bobby Roode vibes, and Bobby Roode had a decent career in WWE. Not great. If he'd come in a little bit younger, I think he probably would have had a better time. But that's just a timing issue. Oh no, Jay White versus Johnny Gargano. Now I got to get out of here. I got to go before this makes me upset. I'll see you guys later. Battle at the Valley, Elimination Chamber, SmackDown reviews all will be upcoming. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.